Rainbow Reflections, Book 2, Put Out the Fire. Chapter 3, In the Shadow. Hyaktu flew his ship over Vinetown by the time day of the sun was upon the world. He could see large flags and plenty of lanterns depicting the sun around the vine-covered buildings. Loud music echoed, and the strong smells of spicy and fried food were overwhelming. His mouth watered as the breeze carried the scents, but he ignored his rumbling stomach as he kept the ship gliding through the sky above. Trying to focus on the wind blowing his long hair instead, the ship pressed on until he was hovering over a forest. Soon enough, Hyaktu saw Jabali's house pop into sight below him. He would have missed it entirely if he didn't notice search for a rainbow flag on the roof, which was only noticeable looking down from above. He allowed the ship to press on past the house, knowing a bigger clearing lay further ahead. Once the clearing came in sight, he pushed a button on the wheel to ease the ship down until it landed in the soft grass with a light thud. Then he turned off the ship with another button, put the engines away, and left the deck. He walked past the kitchen at the front of the ship and down the narrow hall. Quickly going down the staircase, he made it to the ground floor. I hope the kids are doing better. They looked fine when I called yesterday, but... He sighed as he entered the large boarding room on the first level, his heart aching as he thought of the hoverboat disaster several days prior. The moment he had found out, he had gone to the city where his ship was being repaired. Once the ship was mended, he headed for Vinetown. Hyaktu swung the door up and exited. He was not prepared for the ambush that awaited him. Dad, you're here! Hyaktu was nearly knocked off his feet as two figures slammed into him. His back hit the side of the wooden ship, his breath squeezed out as his children hugged him tightly. Let me go, he cried, practically gasping for air. Sorry, Zin chuckled, stepping back. We're just so happy to see you, Ren added, refusing to let go of his arm. Hyaktu shook his head numbly. Clearly, he mused. He glanced at his children, taking a long look at them. Their cuts had healed. There wasn't a single scratch on them. Both kids had a bright shine in their eyes, neither appearing the least bit weary in the humidity. You can stop staring at us now, Zin said abruptly. We're fine, you know. Hyaktu smiled lightly. I'm very happy to see you both again, he murmured. He hugged both kids, then let them go, and realized Sarala stood off to the side a bit farther away. She was dressed in green clothing that covered her burn marks, though Hyaktu suspected those were mostly healed by this point too. How are you doing, Sarala? He asked. Fine, she said gruffly, eyeing him warily. Don't worry, I'm not going to hug you too, Hyaktu teased. Unless you want me to. Sarala's whole body went rigid. No thanks, she uttered. Ren and Zin snorted in laughter, then Ren hurried to the other girl and threw her arms around her. Sarala squirmed in her grasp and tried to break away, causing Ren to cling to her more tightly. You need some love too, Sarala, Ren laughed. Get off me, Sarala yelled. Sarala managed to shake Ren off, then ran away with a broad grin on her face. Ren chased her and Zin hurried after them. Hyaktu chuckled, bounding behind the teens, his hair flying behind him. They reached Jabali's house in no time, each of them chuckling and panting as they stopped outside the front door. Hyaktu breathed in the stuffy air, catching the scent of grass and wood, as well as something spicy. Were you three cooking something? He asked. Zin shoved the stone door open. Come and see, they said, grinning as they led the way inside. Hyaktu entered the dim kitchen and smiled as he saw the counters were lined with dishes. He could see fresh baked bread and a large bowl of chili, both of which were steaming. There were also 2 bowls of salads, one with fruit and one with vegetables. Are those prickle pepper zucchini noodles? Hyaktu asked, standing on tiptoe to see over the bowl of chili to another bowl beyond. You sure are throwing a feast. Well, yeah, we haven't seen you in over 2 months, Zin said in a dramatic tone. It's been over 2 months? Heart aching, Hyaktu reached forward to hug his kids from behind once more, squeezing them as tightly as he could. We've never been away from each other before, not for more than a day. Zin eventually fidgeted, causing Hyaktu to release his hold on his kids. Ren went to grab a stack of clean dishes from one of the cabinets. We didn't know if you'd be back in time for the holiday or not, Ren said. I'm so glad we're able to spend it together. Hyaktu smiled, wiping away the tears that had sprung to his eyes. I'm grateful I can spend it with you too. A small silence formed around them. The only sound was that of Ren scooping food onto plates and bowls. Zin stared at her with glazed eyes for a moment, then moved to get drinks from the fridge. Sorella merely stood in front of the open doorway, trying to cool off by allowing in a non-existent breeze. "Where's Jabali? Still in bed?" Hyaktu asked, chuckling at the thought.
"Oh, he's in town," Ren said. "I didn't think he'd have to work today, but he was gone when we got up."
That's odd. He typically takes the holidays off," Hyaktu commented. "And his businesses are usually closed."
"Maybe he knew you were coming and decided to hide,"
Zin scoffed. Hyaktu shrugged. "Maybe."
"So now that you're here, what are we gonna do?" Zin pressed. "Play games?"
"Can you teach us martial arts?" Sorella cut in.
"Why can't we all just eat first?" Ren asked.
"Yes, let's eat," Hyaktu said. "We can decide more after. I would personally enjoy taking a stroll in town and seeing the festivities." The four sat at the small bamboo table with dishes full of food and cups filled to the brim with strawberry smoothies. Hyaktu had barely taken a sip of the refreshing drink when a shadow crossed through the open doorway. He glanced up to see Jabali enter.
"Yo!"
Jabali called, grinning.
"You're here!"
Hyaktu got to his feet just to be picked up by the large man and squeezed yet again. "Put me down!" he chortled. Jabali chuckled and set Hyaktu on the ground.
"Cutting it kinda close, aren't you? Happy Day of the Sun!"
"Happy day of the..." Hyaktu cut himself off, frowning as he saw a second person had entered the house behind Jabali. "Oh, who's this?" Jabali turned to the tall person and grinned. They had dark reddish hair tied in a bun and bright green eyes. They smiled, lifting a tan hand in greeting.
"This here's my boyfriend, Wave,"
Jabali said, planting a hand on the man's shoulder.
"We've been together a few months. Thought I'd bring him around for the holiday. I didn't know you'd be back today."
"Hello, Wave. I'm Hyaktu," he said, bowing a little stiffly. Hyaktu kicked himself internally, forgetting that most people merely shook hands upon first meeting each other. But Wave didn't seem surprised by the action, and returned the bow as if he'd done it before.
"Is that why you're always gone for hours in the city?" Zin asked Jabali. "Because you're with your love?"
Hyaktu snorted at Zin's choice of words. "Love, sure."
"As a matter of fact, yes,"
Jabali said, tossing his locks over one shoulder and beaming at his partner.
"Anyway, looks like a feast has been prepared in our honor, so let's eat."
"There's no more seats, though,"
Ren said, her voice disappointed as she glanced at the crowded table. "No matter, you can have my seat," Hyaktu said to Wave, signaling his open chair. "I don't mind eating on the ground."
"And I eat standing up all the time,"
Zin said, picking up their plates and hopping out of their chair. After trying to argue, Jabali and Wave finally took the seats given to them. Ren hurried to grab them platefuls of food as well, while Hyaktu made himself comfortable on the hard ground. Zin sunk to the floor beside their father. Hyaktu introduced his kids and Sorella to Wave, then set about eating.
"So where do you two meet?"
Ren asked Jabali and Wave curiously. Hyaktu pricked his ears, intrigued as well. Jabali usually told Hyaktu everything, but he had never mentioned Wave before. Not even when we met up for Day of the Moon, unless they weren't together at that point.
"Oh, you know, at work,"
Jabali said casually.
"You work at Cool Coffee?"
Ren questioned Wave. Wave chuckled.
"No, I'm a teacher at the school in town."
"You're a teacher too?" Hyaktu queried. Wave turned in his seat to see Hyaktu properly.
"Yes,"
he said with a broad smile.
"I love kids. I love art. So I became an art teacher."
Hyaktu nodded. "Makes sense," he said shortly, returning to his noodles.
"What do you teach?"
Wave asked. "Magic, martial arts, art," Hyaktu said.
"Fascinating,"
Wave said.
"I know martial arts too."
"You do? What style?"
"Krabi Kraban. Lots of weapons. How about you?"
Chole Foot, Kung Fu, and Yang. What kinds of weapons do you have in your system?" Sorella asked Wave eagerly, leaning forward. Hyaktu returned to his food, listening to the conversation as Wave and Sorella talked about weapons nearly non-stop the rest of the meal. Hyaktu would be about to comment multiple times, but eventually gave up. He instead spoke to Zin.
"Are we still on for my appointment?"
Zin asked.
"It's in 6 days."
Hyaktu nodded, setting down his empty bowl beside him. "Of course." Zin let out a sigh of relief.
"Good. I thought that with the ship being damaged and you gone for so long, we'd miss it. I can't wait to start the testosterone potions, then I can connect to my magic and actually attend school."
Hyaktu smiled and ruffled Zin's hair. You're going to be a great little magician. I just know it. Zin pushed his hand away, snorting in laughter. Hey, who are you calling little? You are shorter than me, Hyaktu pointed out, keeping his face serious. Actually, Sorela's not the only one who grew over the summer, Zin scoffed. It looked like Ren is the same height as you now, and I'm the same height as her, so we're all the same height, and one day I'm gonna be taller than you, so there.
Maybe, maybe not,
Hyaktu said with a shrug, smiling. Whatever. So, Dad, why is school starting later? Zin asked, their loud voice catching the attention of the others. Silence fell as everyone looked at him expectantly. He fingered his mustache for a long moment.
I have no choice but to start late, he said apologetically. The Pan government is investigating the school at the moment after the attack that happened last year. That's one of the reasons I wanted you three to stay with Jabali over the break. Unfortunately, the government personnel only came to the school the other day, and I'm not sure how long their investigation might take. They're the ones who pushed back the start date.
Why would they be investigating, though? Are they trying to shut us down? Zin asked, their eyes wide.
Potentially, Hyaktu muttered. But there's nothing for them to see. We had cleaned up the mess right away, and everything was back to normal in a week. I'm not worried about it, honestly. As long as nothing further happens this year, we should be fine.
But how did they find out about the spirits? Ren asked, her freckled face worried.
Students telling their parents telling the government, pictures or videos.
Hyaktu sighed.
I honestly expected something like this to happen. I tried to shake them off by saying I wouldn't be home during the summer, that we all already had vacation plans. But they were so insistent and showed up at the school without me being there. Luckily, Khurshid is back to take care of the matter until we return.
Oh, did the teachers find anything about Kaokat? Ren pressed.
Hyaktu glanced at Wave, the man leaning in just as eagerly. He shifted uncomfortably, not willing to discuss Kaokat or anything else with the school in front of the stranger.
No, he said simply. Now, how's about we go play some games? Everyone's finished, right?
We've been finished, Ren pointed out, signaling to the empty dishes on the table.
I'm not,
Sorella scoffed. It's not my fault you've been chatting nonstop, Ren mused. Hurry up and eat then.
Sorella shot the girl a playful glare before finally turning to her food, which had gone cold. As she and Wei finished eating, Hyaktu and the twins started washing the dishes. Hyaktu used his water magic to clean the dishes quickly, merely turning on the sink and directing the water like a jet to spray off the remaining bits of food. Ren used her air magic to dry the dishes, while Zim put them away again. As they worked, Hyaktu spoke telepathically with his kids.
Khurshid was actually attacked by Kaokat a few days ago. That's why he's back at the school early.
What? Is he okay? Ren asked in alarm, pausing as she dried a dish.
He's fine. He sensed Kaokat coming and fought them off long enough to escape and make it back to the school. But that happened on the same day as the eclipse, which makes me wonder what happened with the hoverboats. I was sure Kaokat got involved, but even Jabali said he didn't see any spirit magic in use when I asked.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's able to see spirit magic, Ren remarked. Well, if it wasn't Kaokat who crashed our boats, it must have been C3, Zin insisted.
I hope it wasn't, Hyaktu replied warily.
I don't think it was, Ren said, continuing to dry the dishes. C3 wouldn't do something like that.
Yes, he would, Zin protested.
Is that a new wand?
Hyaktu interrupted them, frowning at the thick wand in Ren's hand.
Oh, Jabali's just letting me use his right now, Ren said, blinking in surprise. He offered to take me wand shopping, but I said I'd wait until we got home.
Hyaktu nodded, appreciating that Ren wanted to get a wand he'd crafted himself rather than a city-made one. He had plenty of wands at the school, ready for the first years or any student who broke their wand. Soon enough, everyone was ready. Hyaktu expected to go to Vinetown's large game center, where he'd be able to take a look at the hoverboat ring himself, but the twins instead brought board games from their shared room. Realizing that the kids likely did not want to go near the game center after what had happened, Hyaktu did not press them about going. The group of 6 therefore played board and card games for most of the day. Hyaktu was starting to get worn out from all the fun when pouring rain sounded. While the others glanced up at the ceiling holes to see if water was about to fall on their heads, Hyaktu pulled out his personal mirror and answered the air call. Fern appeared on the screen, noticeable by the green vine-like tattoos on her face and arms. Her dark green hair, which was usually styled as a large afro, was tied into several knotted buns instead. Her eyes, one red and one purple, gleamed in concern.
"Hello, Fern,"
Hyaktu said as he stood and moved to the stone door.
"Hold on a moment."
He shoved the door open with a bit of difficulty, then stepped into the jungle. An elephog stood several meters away. The small animal squealed in fright and dashed off as he appeared, waving its long trunk madly. He waited for the sound of running hooves to fade away before he turned back to the mirror and nodded for Fern to speak. "I haven't found anything to do with Kaokat or any of the spirits they worked with last year," Fern reported briskly.
Hyaktu sighed. "I wasn't really expecting you to, not in the spirit realm. Kaokat was always more interested in the physical world."
"Khurshid said they attacked him a few days ago," Fern said.
Hyaktu nodded. "They did. He was lucky to get away."
Fern frowned. "Did you ever find anything?"
"No," Hyaktu commented. "My kids were in a hoverboat accident, though, with Zin's boat speeding up and crashing into Ren's. They were both hurt, but they're fine now. I thought it was Kaokat, yet that doesn't seem to be the case, since Kaokat had gone after Khurshid during the eclipse."
"It happened during the eclipse?" Fern asked sharply.
Hyaktu nodded.
Well, I'm assuming they're planning something," Fern said at last. "We'll have to up the security this year."
"Yes," he agreed. "Are you at the school right now?" She nodded. "How's it going with the government?"
"They haven't found anything yet, but they are searching the place thoroughly," Fern said. "I'm not sure when they'll be gone."
He sighed. "Well, hopefully by the time school is set to start in September."
"That's actually why I was calling," Fern said, her face becoming uncertain. She took a deep breath and paused, as if she didn't want to voice her next words. "Aster said he wasn't coming back to teach this year."
"What?" Hyaktu asked sharply. "Why not?"
Fern sighed. "He was ashamed of how poorly he handled the spirit attack last year, said he was incompetent as a teacher, and didn't want to get involved in spiritual affairs, like being sent to the spirit realm to look for an evil spirit."
"If Aster was uncomfortable with the task, he could have told me," Hyaktu said, frowning. "I never would have asked him to search for Kaokat if he was. But why would he tell you this and not me?"
"Well, the letter was in the admin office on the floor. I just happened to walk in and see it. When I picked it up, I saw it was Aster's handwriting, and I admit I was curious to read it," Fern said with an apologetic shrug.
Hyaktu sighed. "I'd hate to lose Aster. I'll call him up to see if I can change his mind. If not, well, at least I'll have an extra month or so to find a new teacher and librarian."
Fern nodded curtly. "Let me know when you hear back from him. He hasn't answered any of my calls, though."
She hung up the air call, Hyaktu's mirror reflecting his face. He unlocked the mirror and went to his contact list, then selected Aster's name. The blonde man appeared on the screen as the mirror attempted to connect, but it was unable to link to Aster's mirror. He therefore opened his Airmail app, typed up a quick message stating he'd like to talk to Aster, then sent it. Once done, Hyaktu turned on the balls of his feet and walked back to the house. He entered the kitchen, everyone glancing up from Zin and Jabali's Mancala match.
"Everything okay?"
Jabali asked. Hyaktu sighed. "Aster has apparently resigned. I sent him a message, but I'm not sure he'll respond."
"Why wouldn't he reply?"
Wave asked.
"And why would he leave?" Ren queried in dismay.
"I guess he wasn't comfortable working at the school after what happened last year," Hyaktu said cautiously. "And I'm doubtful of a response because, well, it's Aster. He can be a bit dramatic sometimes."
"But Aster has to respond," Ren said. "He's been at the school since it opened. He'll come back, won't he?"
"I'm not sure," he admitted. "Aster's been close to leaving on numerous occasions. This isn't the first time he's tried resigning. It'd usually take both Fern and me to convince him to stay. I think, this time, he might be gone for good."
"But who's gonna teach theater and be the librarian?"
Zin asked, tapping their foot from where they sat on the ground. Hyaktu shrugged in response. "I'll give it a few days, then post about it in Vinetown and on the airnet."
"I can do it,"
Wave said abruptly. Hyaktu blinked in surprise.
"I'm an art teacher," Wave pointed out,
and I've worked as a librarian in the past. I'd be happy to help.
You're so sweet.
Jabali exclaimed, and he leaned in closer to kiss Wave on the cheek, Hyaktu doing his best not to cringe. Are you sure? Hyaktu asked Wave. What about your other job in Vinetown?
I think this job sounds much more fascinating, Wave said with a smile. And you're my Jabali's best friend. How could I not help you?
Hyaktu smiled lightly. Well, if you are certain, then I'd be happy to have you, if Aster does not respond by the time school starts. July came to a close within a few days, the Saihan family flying to Greator on Zin's birthday. Zin was able to start taking a hormonal potion full of testosterone, which would allow them to go through the male puberty instead of the female puberty, which their body would have naturally gone through otherwise. Zin was excited to start the testosterone potions to connect to their magic, but Dr. Yun mentioned it'd still take a while before their body adjusted. Dr. Yan also warned them that Zin's moods would be sporadic as they adjusted to the sudden doses of testosterone. Zin would likely be quick to anger and more impatient until the hormone stabilized. The family returned to the Saihan Academy of Magic in the beginning of August, the government personnel still there. Hyaktu ordered his kids to stay in the northwestern tower, only allowing them to go to the southern building's eating hall when it was time for meals. Luckily, a few days later, the government agents left, finding nothing to keep the school from opening. However, they made sure Hyaktu knew the school would be watched closely that year. Though Hyaktu wanted to open the school as soon as they were gone, the airmail had already been sent out to the students that school would begin on September 13th, with magic assessments taking place the week of September 6th. They still had a month, something Hyaktu was both irritated by, but also happy about, as he'd have time for the prep work he had to do. Zin wanted to travel, but Hyaktu grudgingly told them the family wouldn't be able to. He had to meet up with his teachers to discuss the coming year. Hyaktu approached the admin office with a small sigh, brushing off his long tank top and shorts as he entered. Khurshid and Fern were already waiting for him, sitting at the large desk in the middle of the yellow-painted room. Khurshid's head was no longer buzz-cut, but his hair was still short. He angled his large nose in Hyaktu's direction, his blind eyes staring at the wooden floor. He was wearing a tank top instead of his usual yellow robe, the heat too much to don anything fancier. Fern, meanwhile, was wearing a plaid shirt and shorts, with large boots on her feet. She adjusted the spiral necklace resting on her sternum as she sat up straighter. We have a few things to go over, Hyaktu said, closing the door behind him and walking to the chair behind the desk.
Hello to you too,
Fern grunted. Hyaktu inclined his head apologetically as he sat down. Sorry, there's a lot on my mind. As you know, we need to up the security to keep Kaokat and their spirit friends out of and away from the school.
I can see if the plants will tell me of any passing spirits, Fern said briskly. But sometimes the plants don't speak, even to fairies.
Hyaktu nodded.
We should make the frog oils more enchanted,
Khurshid said, referring to the stone statues guarding the school.
Maybe place more outside the school too, and they can give constant video feed instead of short clips whenever detecting movement.
Good idea, Hyaktu said with another nod. I'll see if I can enchant them to do that, though it might take all month before they're ready. He stood up and turned away from the teachers, facing the open window. Frowning, he wondered if Kaokat was outside plotting their next move. But why? What did they want?
What else is on your mind?
Khurshid's voice broke through Hyaktu's thoughts. Hyaktu shifted his gaze from the trees to his teachers. We need to make changes to the curriculum this year. School will only take 3 years to get through now, instead of 4.
3?
Khurshid grumbled in discontent.
Why?
Fern asked. Because I'm probably not going to be around here for much longer, Hyaktu said a bit hesitantly. Once my kids are done, we're going to get back to traveling. So that'll be in 2 or 3 years, so long as the government doesn't shut us down before then.
You're leaving?
Khurshid asked in a low voice.
But what about new students? Should we stop taking new students this year?
Fern pressed. Hyaktu bounced up and down his toes a few times. Well, the school will go to Khurshid if you want it. I know you've always wanted a magic school, and I'll try to teach you everything I know so you may be able to teach the advanced magic classes in the future. Khurshid pursed his lips and nodded quietly. So it's up to Khurshid if we're still taking new students after this year is over,
Hyaktu went on. But we'll take new students for this year, as Zin needs to redo their first year anyway.
What are we going to do with the current fourth years? Fern asked.
The fourth years we have this year will finish their education according to their current curriculum.
And the third years?
They'll follow the new curriculum and be done with school after this year. So we'll have 2 years graduating,
Hyaktu said, running a hand through his thick hair to swipe the bangs from his eyes.
But if I'm going to take over the school,
Khurshid cut in,
why not keep the curriculum the same?
because the fourth year just doesn't seem necessary to have in the first place, Hyaktu replied. Many students leave after 2 or 3 years, and considering we choose who goes into the advanced classes, there are even less students in the fourth year.
That's a fair point, Fern murmured, rubbing her chin thoughtfully.
Khurshid frowned, but said nothing more. Anyhow, we'll need to come up with a new curriculum, Hyaktu continued, turning back to the window. Fern, I trust you to rearrange things for plants and potions accordingly. As for magic studies and magic channeling, Khurshid, I'll be co-teaching that class with you for the second years, and you'll be sitting in on my third and fourth year classes in order to know what you'll be teaching in the future.
Very well,
Khurshid murmured.
What about the martial arts classes, though? Kung Fu 4 is the magic-based one.
Actually, there's a little magic in Kung Fu 3, but it seems I'll just have to advance students a little faster, Hyaktu said with a sigh, his shoulders slumping. This is exactly why I didn't want to make martial arts be part of a magic school.
I thought it was a nice compromise,
Khurshid said, his tone getting defensive.
You couldn't make up your mind with what you wanted for the longest time, and when you finally decided on the magic school, I suggested you bring in the martial arts. That way you could still teach what you wanted to. You didn't have to carry over all that material you learned at your school. You didn't have to create different ranks. You even could have added magic in from the start and make it more magic-based, like it should have been.
Yes, I know,
Hyaktu grumbled wearily.
But there's not much point in changing too much to the Kung Fu now, as I'm sure the class won't be around once I leave.
I suppose we'll find out later, as I'm not sure myself,
Khurshid admitted. Anyhow, I can't think of anything else that needs to be adjusted, Hyaktu said. Any questions for me?
Why not allow me to take over the school now?
Queried Khurshid.
You can still teach the higher classes while having me in charge. It might make the school appear better to the government, too, if your name is no longer listed as the head.
Hyaktu shook his head multiple times, turning back to the others.
No, Khurshid. I don't want something to happen this year and the government pins you for it. Otherwise, the school won't be able to reopen if they shut it down. We'll only transfer the school to your name if the government shuts us down before I leave, while I'm the one in charge. I'd much rather have my name discredited than yours.
Khurshid blinked several times, then smiled lightly.
Thank you for looking out for me, Hyaktu.
Hyaktu nodded.
Of course. Don't you worry, Khurshid. Once it's time, whether I leave or the government interferes and forces me out, you'll own the school.
Sounds like a deal to me.
Any other questions or concerns?
Hyaktu pressed, leaning against the window. What happened with you and Kaokat? Fern asked.
I already told you, Hyaktu said simply. We fought years ago, then I found Ren.
Why did you fight? Fern clarified, her mismatched eyes gleaming.
Hyaktu ran a hand through his indigo hair. He tried to think back to the stormy island in the middle of the ocean. He could almost smell the salty air, hear the waves crashing to the shore, feel the rain and wind beating against him. His head suddenly hurt, as if it had been slammed against the stony ground once more. Kaokat was becoming corrupt, he said slowly, willing the headache to go away. I tried to help them come back to their senses, but they wouldn't hear it. They didn't realize how far they'd gone. They turned into an enemy.
What do you mean, becoming corrupt?
Khurshid pondered.
They...
Hyaktu sighed, closing his eyes as he tried to concentrate. Head pounding, he uttered,
I don't remember.
How can you not remember? Fern huffed.
It was 15 years ago,
pointed out Khurshid, though he sounded doubtful too. Hyaktu opened his eyes, Khurshid appearing as a yellow blob and Fern as a green splotch. Realizing his vision was blurry, Hyaktu faced the window again, tears sliding down his cheeks. Why was he crying?
From the strain of trying to remember? From his body remembering the pain he'd felt when he was thrown to the ground? From his friend turning against him?
Hyaktu?
Khurshid mumbled.
Are you okay?
Fine, Hyaktu said softly, uncertain if they could hear him in the quiet room. I'm fine. I think I'm just gonna get some fresh air. Why don't you two start working on the new curriculum? I'll be back soon. Without waiting for their response, Hyaktu pushed the open window up the rest of the way and hopped out. Once his feet landed on the hard soil, the sun warm on his back, he headed for the shade of the forest. His headache seemed to be worsening, ringing through his ears and rattling his brain, as if stones were hitting him left and right. Stumbling to a nearby tree, he pulled out his personal mirror from his shorts pocket and sat down. Jabali's face soon appeared on the glass, Hyaktu barely comprehending that he had selected his friend's name on the tiny contact list. Wiping the wetness off his face, his vision returned to normal by the time Jabali answered the call.
Hyaktu?
Jabali yelped in surprise, leaning close to the mirror.
You okay? What's wrong?
I'm okay, Hyaktu mumbled. Jabali, do you remember why Kaokat and I fought?
'Cause that cat was a maniac.
Jabali huffed, still peering at Hyaktu in concern. You never liked them, but I was their friend, Hyaktu said softly. So why would I fight them? They attacked me first, but why?
How should I know? It ain't like I was on the island with you at that time. I hadn't been with you for months beforehand,
Jabali pointed out. Hyaktu sighed and lowered his eyes to the dirt. Yeah.
Why does it matter? Who knows why they might have attacked you, but you fought back to defend yourself. That cat was crazy, Hyaktu,
Jabali said, his sapphire eyes staring at Hyaktu intensely.
They're still crazy by the sound of it.
I just wish I remembered why, Hyaktu muttered, pressing a fist against his aching forehead. It could be the reason they're back.
Well, who knows what's going through that spirit's mind?
Jabali grunted.
Hyaktu, you don't look well. Get inside and hydrate. Have you been eating much?
I think so,
Go eat again, just to be sure.
Jabali instructed firmly.
And call me if you're still not feeling good in an hour or so, okay?
Hyaktu took a deep breath, then released it, the headache lessening as he did so. I'm feeling a little better already. You don't need to worry about me. Jabali snorted derisively, the sound so loud that it caught Hyaktu by surprise, and he looked back to the mirror.
Like that will ever happen. I'm always worrying about you, you dunderhead. You're always getting into trouble, or not eating, or taking on too much.
Okay, Hyaktu grumbled. But I am feeling better. I'll talk to you later.
See that you do.
Jabali hung up the call before Hyaktu could retort something in response. Shrugging, he placed the mirror back in his pocket and got to his feet. But as he headed back to the window he had hopped out of, his headache returned full force. How did Kaokat become corrupt? Why did we fight?